the natural products, yes, and another one is the technology interventions. So with the change in time, we really need to catch up with the technologies and really have to use those technologies through us for the purposeful research and purposeful applied kind of a output out of whatever that we do. Now here, when I talk about technology interventions, you will say, sir, to what extent shall we intervene the technology in say the research related with say natural products, for example. So many questions may come when we learn about the technological advances. We know that very high-end technologies are available, very high-end analytical equipments are available, but those are not in our hand right now. So in that case, many times we just keep our attention towards what can we do even in absence of those kind of equipments. So I would just share you whatever that you can have in the laboratories can also be properly utilized, and something very creative can be structured, can be brought out of your laboratory along with your students as outcome. So I would go to the next slide. This is just kind of a sensitization about nothing. We never have to think like we are doing anything small. Our presence itself has to be underlined first. Where do we stand, and how important contribution are we going to do in our lifetime? So whatever space, whatever small things or achievements that we are going to have is really going to be counted. And like in this slide, if you see that, okay, when we talk about our own place, our destination in the Brahmanda, then we are hardly a dot. And this picture shows us the extent the Earth is important in this galaxy. So it is just like a dot, just a dot, which might be very insignificant in terms of the whole of the one single galaxy. And beyond that, in our Shastra, we usually hear from the Santa Vangmaya and all that there are Ananta Koti Brahmandas. So in Ananta Koti Brahmandas, there is one Brahmanda, and there is only one single dot, which is otherwise very insignificant from the point of view of the cosmic, we can say, life force. But we are there, and we just have to appreciate that this kind of arrangement, it is so intrinsic, it is so automatic. It is not heavy. It is very balanced, and it is very natural. So we have to first of all accept this that there is something which is taking this complete kind of scenario in a very balanced way, very natural way. So we have to appreciate and accept that there is something, we call it as nature. So everything is running by nature, nothing is colliding, nothing is falling, and everything is floating, and still there is a intrinsic, we can say, a system. And therefore, if you connect all these things together right up to our own subject, then we have to begin from this end. So first of all, we have to acknowledge that the place that we talk about, for our own self when we talk about, for our contribution when we talk about, there is nothing to despair, because ultimately, in a larger way also, the Earth is a very small place amongst this Brahmanda. So this is very, very different kind of a perspective that I'm going to put across. And this is like, again, I'm going to talk about the cosmic life force. So we are now zooming in from Brahmanda, and then we are now coming close to our own, Mother Earth, and which we call it as the Prithvi. And this particular definition of nature or definition of God, when I was searching for, I really found out a very interesting definition. That was none other than Jivan Vidya Mission's Shri Vamanrao Pai, who had written a very scientific definition for this very natural, very godly, very important cosmic life force which runs the whole thing. And he says that it is a natural, intrinsically automatic, self-regulatory, systematized order endowed with the universal laws of nature. So this cosmic life force, or whatever force that is, it is very automatic. I had shown you that how every planet, every star is at their places, no heavy, everything is self-regulatory. Our earth is, having a self-rotation, self-spin is also there, and it is also rotating around the sun. So nobody is controlling, nobody can control it, but these are all happening. So these are all following the universal laws of nature. So I am bringing you close to again our subject, which is related with natural products. Whenever we talk about making anything out of those, are we really following universal laws of nature or not? That is going to be a question. How much of the technological intervention has to be incorporated so that we go in tune with universal laws of nature and we do not deviate or break those, is my input from these initial slides. So can we further zoom in? So if you closely watch the surface of the earth, then you would realize that OMG means kitna badhiya isme arrangement has been there. So what kind of arrangement has been given on the earth is, we all know, we call it grossly as a biodiversity. And how much do we respect this? How much do we appreciate this? This is a very natural arrangement which has happened without the intervention of humans. So we have to really again look into its richness, its abundance, its importance in our life and balancing our lives. So, and we are really lucky to be amongst the 8 world's best biodiversities available so far. We are still there. India is number 8, and we are harnessing the biodiversity, which is immensely important because of the diverse environmental conditions, which starts right from Tamil Nadu and it reaches up to the peak of Kashmir. So we are really bestowed with the treasure of, we can say, a diverse atmosphere and the natural flora and fauna by the Almighty, and therefore our nation is really rich in that sense. If you further zoom in, what might have happened when human beings must have been evolving? They did very naturally but very smartly the use of very local resources. So when we zoomed in, we found that there is one man, a cattle is there, and then there is a surrounding diversity is there. So for all his needs, what we understood is that he started utilizing all these resources for his shelter, for his food, for his health needs and everything. And this slide is very important. We have to keep that in mind whenever when we will be further discussing it at the end. But what was different among the human? We are also animal, but among the human, we were having the brain, and we were having very a special character of analyzing the things, of logically thinking, of we can say coming out with ideas and trying many things. So in the left hand side, if you see, there is a big tree. The perception about this tree by human being was like this is something which is a godly thing and which gives us shadow when there is a sun. It gives us fruit whenever its fruiting days comes, and those fruits are really useful for human being. So that was the main perception. Then later on, by his analytical thinking, he thought of making use of the wood for making shelters, and then the we can say the homes. But when it came down to understanding their uses other than food and shelter, he realized that okay, there are different parts of the plants which can be made use of. Like in the right, you can see the figure, which is very primary, we can say, beginning of understanding about these plants. But with the advent of technology, as we are now talking about technological interventions, and the inquisitiveness that the mind was calling for, the satiating the anxiety of the mind as to what is really happening in the plant, how the plants are bearing the fruits, how those fruits are really useful to us, how the nutrition is coming to us, how one single twig of a plant grows into a big plant. And that is how, with that inquisitiveness and with the advent of science, we as a human being, as a scientist, we dig down into its, right up to its one single cell. And we realize that, yes, one single cell itself is a life force, and one single cell can, create the whole big tree. So we understood all these constituents. Here you can really see these are very basic kind of components which were told, taught to us in our primary days right up to junior college. And later on we understood that as far as its energy needs are concerned, yes, there are few primary metabolites which are generated by the plant for the sustenance of its life itself. And those primary metabolites are also the source of energy for those who consume it. So we as a human being, we really started making good use of the resources. But later on we found that can we looking into the the scarcity of some kind of plants in certain season or period, or particularly with respect to its demand and then supplies, if there is any gap, how can we really make it up? So again, with the advances of the science, we reached deeper into, and we started forming the cell cultures from one single cell in the laboratory, in the test tubes, and then in the higher end cultures, and we started getting the secondary metabolites in the laboratory itself. So my point of view is that earlier it was a very pious view, and a very we can say wholesome view we used to have about a plant. So we used to look at the plant in terms of a very, we can say, soothing friend of ours, who offers us fruits, who offers us shade, and then pure air. But with the advent of science, we started bearing a we can say spectacle, through which we started looking into, oh, this plant, and then we started correlating with, okay, it is rich in alkaloids, it is rich in glycosides, and something like that. Whole of our perception started changing, and we started evaluating the started making the valuation of the plant based on the important phytoconstituent it bears. So the plants which bears very complicated, very critical, or pharmacologically significant kind of a phytoconstituents became more important to us rather than our earlier insight. So our earlier insight was, it was very natural. Now this is an unnatural phenomena that we observe the plants because of its important phytoconstituents. So actually, when we are going deep down into its chemistry, we are actually narrowing down our vision and our thoughts, our sentiments about that plant. And then we can say, again, this is the technology that we started talking about, generating the natural medicines out of the medicinal plant cells in the laboratories. So this is a very simple procedure that is being followed in the laboratories of biotechnology-based, crude drug manufacturing companies, wherein the very selected and the best plant cells are picked up, and they are metabolically engineered, and those high-yielding cell lines only are taken up for metabolic engineering, and then to optimization and cell culture approaches. And after making use of the again high-end bioreactors, and then from the cultures, they started extracting the secondary metabolites. So one way was, it was very easy that you start getting these secondary metabolites from the plants, or otherwise this is a very complicated way through which plants are particularly those secondary metabolites are biosynthesized in the laboratories. But this was also acceptable because this was ultimately saving or actually conserving the plants, and conservation of plants was also of importance. So in general, if you see, if you take crude drugs over here for your studies or for any of your understanding about how the plant material works, you can see that first of all we check its adverse drug reactions, mechanism of action, we identify the active compounds, we then fish the targets, and we identify the potential targets in the human body. Now there are even the software which are available, and you can really plug and play kind of things are happening, and we can really identify which are the potential targets in the human body. And then after that you can establish a pathway through which these kind of active compounds can really show their activity. And second thing is, you can also have the disease analysis, and on the basis of disease, whether you can connect those kind of molecules to the potential targets in the diseased person. And further, when I was studying the very deep study of network pharmacology, it was done by um, done at Pune University, and we have seen that one single molecule, if you extract out of the plant body or the plant extracts, then one single drug can decipher these many number of reactions at the receptors. So the kind of a network pharmacology that was studied. So this is for one example. It was there, and one molecule was expressing the good activities at these many number of receptors, which were shown as green spots. Orange spots were almost neutral, but there were few spots in every cell which was giving us the adverse effects. So collectively, if you talk about these kind of approach of scientific approach of isolating a single molecule and then trying its efficacy, you may see this kind of mix of responses from the body. And later on, if you further look into the advent of science, we have really seen that okay, the bigger molecules from the plant sources can also be made cross the blood-brain barriers or something like that, with the advent of again understanding the chemistry of those molecules and then understanding the receptor approach and facilitating it by connecting it with certain proteins or something like that. And we have seen these kind of developments are really useful to it. But this is another picture which I wish to show, and that talks about the very established, phytoconstituents or even the synthetic molecules which were there earlier as antibacterials. But later on, we found that not many new molecules are coming from the laboratory, and it was thought, can we use the same existing molecules for some other medicinal purposes? And therefore, this study was showing that okay, one single plant was one particular constituent was tested multiple times and for different reasons, and there were few successes. So, like for example, chloroquine was also antibacterial. It was tested for antifungal activity later on, then antiprotozoal activity, and like this. Now, we call this as repurposing, and this we have very well seen being practiced during the pandemic days, when ideally we were not having any single molecule working as a panacea or as a treatment in corona, and then every body from every different medicinal segments, like either it could be the integrative systems of medicines or it could be a main, we can say, allopathic system of medicines. Everybody was trying to look back and see the repurposing of the existing molecules. So this is what everything was going on. But then when it comes to our own subject, that is pharmacognosy, or when it comes to my own experiences while working with the Ayurvedic doctors or guiding the almost I have guided 80 MD Ayurveda students, and while working with them, I just really learned to read into the basics of Ayurveda, which talks about a complete whole. They do not see your body in parts. They do not, cure your ailments locally or at the looking at only one particular point. But they usually wants to alleviate all the diseases by treating the root cause of the problems. And that whole look of the Ayurveda really prompted me to look into the modern definitions and modern guidelines also. So I was very happy to see that in the textbook of medical physiology, which all of us have read or students might be reading nowadays also, should go into this particular statement of Guyton and Hall. It says that indeed the human body is much more than the sum of its parts, and life relies upon this total function, not just on the function of individual body parts in isolation from the others. Now, this is a very important kind of a statement which we have to, agree upon, that the whole body itself works. You cannot just, can you just close your eyes and just imagine that there is, no right hand to your body. So, what would be the feeling? Would you feel that you would be able to do everything without one single body part? No. So all the body parts are so important. They are so intrinsic part of our body. Though they are so automatically doing the functions, and therefore all of them has to be respected in the same way as we respect the part which is affected. So when we say that there is some ailment or there is some pain at one place, it should not be like you just pamper that one. You have to take care of the whole body, and the whole body will take care of the disease or the ailment that the body is bearing. So looking at complete approach, when I was I got into the academics after having the industry things for almost 6-7 years. When I came down to academics, my approach was not on theoretical basis, but I was trying to connect all the above aspects to pharmacognosy, and that lead to an interdisciplinary approach. And our mission mode was applied research and entrepreneurship development. So besides the very standard outcome which have been given on the left hand side of the pharmacognosy department where the arrow is moving, we entered into giving our or extending our services for standardization and quality control of things related with ethnopharmacology or traditional practices, cultivation of medicinal plants. We started working with farmers. We started working with Govigyan Anusandhan Kendra for Panchagavya Ayurveda research. We have been working with forest department for quite a long time. And then one of the outcome or we can say the outreach program was reaching out to the industries for cracking their research problems and giving them working solutions. So obvious outcome of all this is publications and patents. But the gradual development in the laboratory helped me achieve the many of the projects without major financial assistance from any funding body. So these were the basic things which were generated very slowly right from 2003 to 2000 almost 11 12 and right up to here. Some major equipments were added. So I'm very happy to tell you that when this thought came that okay, we are doing experiments based on the natural products and very good syllabi we were having for Master of Pharmacy as well as B Pharmacy during those days, and I just thought of reaching out to smaller industries. So in this list of industry collaborators with whom we are working right now, the very first was in the eighth place, you will see Organic India Limited. Now, this was the first company which really triggered our kind of association, and they really changed our whole perception about what kind of capabilities we have, and if extended to industry, how industry can be benefited. So I would go into that story very briefly after this, but this is a very happy thing that not very big companies, very small beginners, entrepreneurs have been benefited through our interventions, and almost now 43 research projects we have completed in collaboration with industries. So I was just referring about this company, Organic India. This was almost 400 crores company, turnover company, and the CEO of this company, Mr. Krishan Gupta, just came down for an alumni summit in our adjacent institution, Lakshmi Narayan Institute of Technology, for the alumni meet as a guest. And after coming over here, he just inquired that if there is anyone in Nagpur University who is working on herbals. So the expert, the laboratory was our own laboratory, and he visited our department, and he had given us 15 minutes, but that 15 minutes went into almost 2 hours discussion, wherein he put across a very legible problem of research in front of us. And I would just mention you in one line that he was asking us, sir, we are giving the tulsi seeds to farmers of Bundelkhand region to the extent of 2,500 hectares, but they are all small and marginal farmers. We are giving them seeds. We are telling them how to grow the tulsi plant, and then we take their harvest in the form of a buyback. Now the farmers are benefiting, company is benefiting, but there is a research problem. We are named as Organic India, and we believe that our product should also be a purely organic. And we are afraid that the farmers who are marginal farmers, who are used to be or habitual to use, say, chemical fertilizers and pesticides for their regular food crops or vegetables, if they use the chemical fertilizers and the pesticides on, say, a crop that we use in the form of a, herbal tea, what will happen to its activity or the potency? Will there be any significant influence of this kind of a methods of cultivation on the secondary metabolites, or per se on the activity which is expected? So can you imagine, this was a very big question, and he said that all across the world there is no such study that has been done. So can you help us in that? So I said, since I came from industry, I know that if you have to have a standardization or the validation of any of your research study or any of your analytical study, you need to have 3 samples, and 3 samples means 3 crops you have to take for 3 different years, and those samples will go for the analysis. So in that case, a few NTRIs we got involved, like National Bureau of Soil Survey, Punjab Krishi Vidyapith, because cultivation was integral part of this research. Rajiv Gandhi Biotechnology Center, I would tell you why they were our partners, and Indian Bureau of Mines. So along with all these partners, we chalked out a mega project, and I got one research PhD fellow for that matter. And we came out with so far 5 publications out of the work that I'm going to share with you. So, and the 5 farmers workshop, almost the influence of that was almost now 160 acres of land in Vidarbha has gone into that kind of advice-based cultivation. And then the work went into national and international conferences. So it would be a very surprising thing for all of you that a pharmacy college is going to have a project like this, which is very much part of the farming as well. So I'm very happy to share that Mr. Mohammad Tawqir, who became the PhD scholar for this particular project, accepted this challenge, and he worked on there is a list of plants here which were all known anti-diabetic, and we wanted to just evaluate the influence of both organic method of cultivation and non-organic methods of cultivation. Organic means wherein Shenkat, Gomutra, and all kind of natural pesticides, that includes the garlic, that includes the kadu neem, everything as per the Shastra. And there was another mode wherein we used all urea and then chemical fertilizers, as well as the antifungals and the pest retardant, everything that was chemical on one side. So there was a whole comparison model of 2 different kind of sets of experimentation, wherein the care was taken that the seeds were sown on the same day, the land was uniform for both the sides, and except the methods of cultivation. And there were many observations that we made. You can see that kind of observations. OMC here is organically cultivated Momadica charentia, and NMC is non-organically. Putting our hands in soil, a pharmacy person doing that, it was a matter of laughter that time, but we were doing the very unique kind of a contribution from the science for this particular industrial requirement. And the most amazing thing that came out of this, because this is a complete thesis, and maybe it would take around 10 to 12 hours for you to go through that the scientific data. But when it comes to medicine, we all know that the medicine has to be safe, number one, and then efficacious. So safety and efficacy has to be brought on the primary fold of understanding of anything. So here is an example wherein I was telling you our collaboration with biotechnology department, and what they did was they were having a wonderful protocol wherein they used the fluorescent bacteria to evaluate the toxicity. Now, what used to happen, that there is a plate here, you can see the A plate is there, wherein if the light passes across the bed of bacteria, the bacteria fluoresces. So, and if there is anything toxic that you are adding, it means the bacteria are dying and the luminescence drops. Now, this is the whole protocol, And what we really found that the organically cultivated, say here, TF means Trigonella phenambricum, and the non-organic ones, the organically cultivated, जो हमारे गोबर, गोमूत्र, दही, दूध, इनके माध्यम से बना हुआ जो क्रॉप था हमारे मेडिसिनल प्लांट्स का, उसकी जो सेफ्टी है वो बियॉन्ड इमेजिनेशन, मीन्स इट वाज एब्सोल्युटली लाइफ फ्रेंडली, इट वाज देयर, and that was shown by the luminescence that was coming out of the bacteria. So they were all live. But when it came to the non-organically cultivated, wherein fertilizers, chemical were used, wherein we used the pesticides and the fungicides, which were of chemical nature, we found there is a drastic death of bacteria. So safety-wise, we understood that definitely the non-organic one or chemically cultivated ones are toxic. That was one part. So safety was definitely, here there was a compromise. But what about efficacy? And we found that yes, at the lowest concentration of the organically cultivated medicinal plant, it was showing much more and comparable activity as that of the standard. So anti-diabetic activity, acute and subchronic, was done, and we were really surprised to see that even the efficacy is also getting affected. So my telling from out of this is that कि आप कोई भी ड्रग या क्रूड ड्रग जो मार्केट में लेने वाले, चाहे आप लोग हो, स्वयं हो, कोई वैद्य हो, डॉक्टर्स हो, या कोई इंडस्ट्री हो, अगर वो केमिकली कल्टीवेटेड मोड से आई हुई अगर कोई क्रूड ड्रग्स यूज करता है, तो शायद आपको उसके जो इंटेंडेड बेनिफिट्स है, हेल्थ बेनिफिट्स, वो नहीं मिलेंगे. नहीं मिला तो आश्चर्य मत करिए, क्योंकि ये स्टडी जो है अभी उसको प्रूव कर रही है. सो दिस इज just a kind of a substantiation of the internal fear that this might be happening has been substantiated. We have the evidences to show that yes, the method of cultivation has a impactful, we can say, influence on the safety and efficacy of any crude drug. So moving ahead, it is not something like, when we were given a chance to work on a project which was totally funded by Organic India Limited for 5 years, one complete, PhD was the outcome of this. And the company was also very happy with the, kind of study which was very scientifically done. And we, along with their permission, we started disseminating this information to the farmers. So a pharmacognosy department or a pharmacy department reaching out to farmers, telling them that, okay, growing medicinal plant is a very big business that is going to come. And that is because we have India has become a signatory to the Global Biodiversity Act, which was enacted in World Health Organization in the year 2002, United Nations. And India became signatory in 2010, and it came into existence in the year 2012. So maintaining biodiversity registers, banning or we can say blocking the plucking off or the taking the crude drugs from the forest. So everything has been now enacted. It is now illegal to collect any medicinal plant from the forest. So the solution remains is cultivation itself. And cultivation, if you are doing with chemicals and fertilizers, as has been proved here, it is going to be unsafe. That is number one, and less efficacious. So what is the use of doing that? So we started reaching out to the farmers. You can see that many farmers got benefited, and I was telling you that almost 160 acres of land in Vidarbha being done by very young entrepreneurs, farmers, and they wish to really do these things in a better way. Another example I would like to share you is about a very different kind of an entrepreneur. He was Gopesh Badwaik, and he came to my laboratory knowing that we are there to help many people. We are helping many people, and he was a non-science, non-pharma guy. But he said that, sir, I'm young and I can, market anything. So I'm very good at marketing. So can you please suggest us any kind of, good herbal formulation, which I would be able to, take to the masses, which would give me business and it should benefit the people as well, suffering people. So we zeroed down on a disease which is very common and, we can say present in the society to a high extent, that is diabetes. And Again, one M-Pharm project was sponsored by him, and we developed a wonderful combination of anti-diabetics. We optimize the things, where to add extract, where to take the fraction, where to take the crude powder, and like that. And the whole study went on for almost 12 months. We developed a product which is now marketed in the named as Diactral, and the company is Hilarious Ayurveda. So I was really surprised on the entrepreneurial thought that was given by Gopesh Badwai. He said that, sir, I can market the product. I am good at marketing. So can you help? And this product came. And to your happiness also, I would just show you this underline, which reads that when he participated in a, we can say, national level Ayurvedic and natural product exhibition that was organized by Ministry of Ayush in Gujarat, he said that, sir, our first product Diactral, whose initial research was done at your department, awarded as the best novel Ayurveda medicine. So this kind of a credit will come back to you, if you even contribute in a smaller way. So this was one other success story. Another big one that is still going on, and the lineup of my students are doing work on this, wherein the issue was about nutrition and phytoconstituents. How that came to our laboratory was another very different kind of a technocrat. He was an IIT Powai student, and he went on for a picnic to Melghat, and he got disturbed over there, looking at the state of malnutrition. And he said, sir, I am very young. I have seen, Mumbai and all these cities. But when I went to Melghat region, I really found that there are many NGOs working in that area for, alleviation of malnutrition. But there is no success. What might be the reason? And we discussed a lot. We really identified that if you compare the presence of these Adivasi Bandhus in Melghat and compare to them, if you look the same kind of population in Gadchiroli district, we found that Gadchiroli people are utilizing their forest output in a better and optimized way, and they are very healthy and strong. However, in case of Melghat, because of excessive intervention into their lifestyle and disconnect probably with that of their natural resources, this kind of a malnutrition is there. So these two comparative geographical zones were taken into consideration, and then we started focusing upon those plants which are of high nutrition value and those plants which are of high medicinal value, like anthelmintic, because one of the major reasons is the presence of tapeworms in the affected population. So we started looking into those kind of resources which are locally available there in the Melghat area, and then some of my students, we started making the health supplement which were tested by this person, and he made an industry called them as VSK Herbals, and they joined hands with number of physicians, number one, and number of schools in that region, and they started giving this particular developed formula to these students who were school going, and they observed many parameters, like growth was one of the parameter, but we can say the intellectual output, the results of every examination that was being given by the students in those the schools in those areas, they were improving in those which were given this particular herbal health supplement prepared in our laboratory. So that was a service to, we can, society, or giving back to the society. Besides them, there were many industries that came up close to us, and those were small medium scale industries. They had just entrepreneurial backgrounds. They were making some kind of products which were there in the market itself, but they were never tested in the laboratories because the Food and Drugs Administration doesn't insist. But they were saying, like, sir, Physilax, this is wonderful cream that has been prepared by a company based on natural products, and it works wonderfully well. So any patient who is suffering with, say, piles or hemorrhoids, if he uses my cream, they are really happy with the outcome. But sir, I do not have any data whatsoever about its phytoconstituents, about its the secondary metabolites presence and the quantity. No analytical assay for that matter. So how can I do that? So we started helping many companies. You can see by Penny Herbals we did, these are just few projects I have listed: Polyherbal Skin Cream, and I have mentioned the name of my students as well who worked on one single project. So Keshwardhani oil, Physilax cream. For Herbs India, we used, we worked on anti-asthmatic herbal preparations. For Unijewels, we had, a different kind of a very complex kind of a studies, like a psoriatic kit was there, wherein oral drug was also given, as well as the, topical application creams were also there. And you can imagine when we do the preclinical evaluation, you have to really engage into, new protocol developments, and we really got a very good pharmacology arm in our department. And by sitting together, we work out the models and then connect the mechanistic role of secondary metabolites by which the activities are coming. So we really helped many industries consolidate their existing products. So this was the kind of another help. Then came the bigger industry. So looking at our contribution to the smaller industry and our approach of giving something, not, we do not want anything out of them. We do not want money to be given to us. We just requested them to help the student who wish to work on your project. And you would, we were really surprised when Baidyanath Ayurved Bhavan, which is itself having a very big research R&D center over here in Nagpur, they, also accepted that, sir, we would like to work along with your laboratory, and many new products which were in their pipeline were put in front of us to consolidate their efficacy and safety further by generating the scientific evidences. So you can see here the Plaquebuster herbal formulation as a potent anti-atherogenic agent. So we really focused on, some say natural products which were going west. Like if you can imagine the peel of orange or peel of the हमारा जो पोमोग्रेनेट होता है, तो ये पील्स से हम लोग कैसे बना सकते हैं, एंड इज दैट पील ऑफ एनी सिग्निफिकेंस? सो वी रियली फाउंड दैट यस, they are holding very high level of flavonoidal molecules, and flavonoids are really good in busting out the plaques. And we tried everything together on animal studies and write that, and we really found that the formula. So we went in for even having a memorandum of understanding with Baidyanath, and so many projects are going on along with them. So the projects, if done in your laboratories, are of immediate significance to the industry, because they weigh themselves better when it comes to the export of their products. And for exports, this kind of data is essential data, and which is a required one. So if you look into this later, you would see that हमारे तरफ से तो हमें लगता है कि बहुत छोटा सा काम किया है, but what Baidyanath was writing about was really heartening. He says that for last couple of years we have been working with department, and it is very heartening experience, as many of our industrial problems were tackled smoothly through various research projects given to the postgraduate students. The work performed in your good fact laboratories was of very good quality, as they were done using scientific protocols. It has helped us in getting working solutions for our research products in pipeline. So what else we want? So beyond what we do for students, we are having a wonderful outreach, and while many people started reaching out to us because of our helping, we can say, the motive, there was one sector to which I was connected to, but it was a very different angle connecting with it, and that was Go Vigyan Anusandhan Kendra. So what we did is that we were looking into the Panchagavya Ayurveda. The Go Vigyan Anusandhan Kendra at Devlapar, near almost 70 kilometers from Nagpur, was having a the credit of holding a Food and Drugs Administration first license in India to manufacture the Panchagavya Ayurveda, and they were really desperate about the quality of those products, about the standardization of those products, and about the promotion of those products, not from the we can say ritualistic or traditional or sympathetic point of view, or just because a few Hindus will believe and then they will use the Panchagavya. No, not like that. They were really looking for a scientific connect with those products, so that on the basis of its scientific proving those products can be marketed not only in India but throughout the world. So that gap how can we bridge? So went to the Govindan Anusandhan Kendra, we folded hand and we said that please allow us to work for standardization of your products, which they readily agreed, and with the blessings we started working on. So every year we are going along with so many students. We reside in that particular vicinity where around almost 700, 800 Govansh is there. And in that atmosphere, if any student wish to, contribute his time, his energy, and wish to, work on those projects, he is allowed to pick up those. So you can see a list of products like Medoar, which was the best anti-obesity drug we studied for. And to your surprise, I would, probably, I don't know whether I have inserted those slides, but there is a absolutely different 2 hours lecture only on Govindan Anusandhan. So these are the products. Shatadot Growth we checked for wound healing, Ashtamangala Growth for anti-Alzheimer's, wound healing agents, Panchatitta Grita for psoriasis, Vanari Gutica for aphrodisiac activity. Now this Vanari Gutica is so important for me because it took me to USA. How that I will describe later on. But see, there are definitely going to be few proprietary manufacturers in your area who are making some formulation based on their either unscientific or scientific instinct, and then just scientific or unscientific instinct, and they are, however, getting good clinical outcome, but there is no scientific study done. So kindly lend the helping hand to them. And herein, yes, there are 2 examples I have inserted. Medoar. What we really found is that in comparison to say plain Gomutra, there was a Medoar which was having only one medicinal plant in it. So the Arka means the cow urine distillate, collected from the indigenous cow, which was fed on the natural flora and fauna, not of the city. So indigenous cow fed on natural flora and fauna, its cow urine, it was distilled, and then the Ayurveda has the formulation that was given in the ancient days, which includes the distillate when it is collected. After that, the distillate is we have to dip the pottery of Kesher, that is Crocus sativus, into the distillate, and that Crocus sativus releases the phytoconstituents in the cow urine, and that product is called as Medohar Ark, which if you literally take it, Meda means motapa, usko har karne wala aisa ark. And this is the only product which is available in the whole Ayurveda, which is made out of distillate of cow urine, Medohar Ark. Now, it was also easier for us also as a scientific fraternity. It is easier for you to standardize a formulation which has only one plant, and it is really a challenge to do the standardization and further studies for a polyherbal formulation. So we happily took up this and we did the complete study, and to our surprise, against the most modern statins, this product was tested, and this was found to be highly efficacious, number one, and very safe. As we all are aware about the bad effects of statin, as compared to that, this was absolutely safe. So, but are we aware of this? No, we were not aware of this. So there were Praman Patras from Govindan Anusandhan Kendra blessings us, appreciating the purpose for which we are, extending the work of our laboratories, and simultaneously getting so many MPharm students on these, industrious projects. Shatadauta Grita is another product which I won't go very detailed into right now, but this is one of the world's best, or the premium, we can say, Limoyan, or we can say the best moisturizing and anti-aging cream that is given to all of us by the nature, by Ayurveda. But are we really, aware about it, or do we really heard about it? No. So please, visit and note down these names, go into how these things are manufactured, what kind of interventions are needed, and what kind of studies can be done. So one in the Ayurvedic text. So we just wanted to check whether it is also capable of healing the wounds, and we did a complete study. This is just one single page picture of wherein we took only the means the no only the ointment base, only cow ghee. Then we had a product which was manufactured by Govigyan Anusandhan Kendra. We also manufactured we can say Shatadota Gluta in our laboratory, also in-house formulation. And we also tried to give an additional input. So if we are trying for a Shatadot group and Haldi is also anti-inflammatory, can we add that? So we added that also in the formulation number 4 here, and then standard Framax. To our surprise, we found that the Shastrokta Shatadota Krita, which was prepared by Govigyan Anusandhan Kendra, healed the wound on day 16 and won the race. So when it comes to winning the race, even our contention of adding haldi to it, which may probably speed up or enhance the process of wound healing, that also failed. So it means that what amount of thought might have been given by our ancestral scientists, we usually call them as rishis, while establishing these formulations. How much optimization must have been done, that beyond that product you won't get any better products and the activities as well. Few more ideas, and then one of my student Ashlesh Murkute, he thought of just a thought was there, sir, so many solvents we are using for extraction of medicinal plants, can we use Gomutra Arka for extraction purposes? So why not, when Gomutra is having so many activities on its own, can we not really try? And we tried that. And again, the focus has to be then on a different thing. And then the focus was on, we just focused on the tobacco leaves. Tobacco leaves, which were traditionally known to be very good for baldness, and the poultice of it was traditionally used to be kept on the scalp, and then it was said that it helps in regrowth of the hairs, lost hairs. So in that case, what we did was we connected the cow urine as a solvent, and we extracted the tobacco leaves using that. And the whole phenomena was very very big project, and so many for how many days the extraction should go, because it was supposed to be only maceration, no heating, nothing involved. And what we really came out was with a product of 28 days of connect between the cow urine and the tobacco leaves, and we have seen that so many just and our focus was on improvising the activity of tobacco leaves to the extent that it should offer us some technology or some kind of product which would be of use in market. So what we did was, yes, the biotransformation means in that particular macerated mass of cow urine and tobacco leaves, there was a growth of few bacteria. Now that selective growth of very selective bacteria, we identified those bacteria, and those bacteria helped us biotransform the phytomolecules in tobacco into something which were very useful and original. And what we have seen is that the product made out of the 2% extract of that has resulted into at least a very say inspiring kind of a results, that yes, even biotransformation using cow urine can be done in future. So as I was telling you, we are very closely working with medicinal plant growers in this region, particularly the young farmers who really wish to do it in a different way and wish to make their mark, not just like vegetable vendors, but the standard medicinal plant growers and their producers are really acceptable by industries in a big way. So these are all their fields. We are working closely with Seychelles Medifarms. We are thankful to them for their proper engagement and keeping us informed about the happenings on the field and the given opportunities. Another big thing that we are working with is the ethnopharmacology area, wherein you have seen here the traditional healers are sitting. And it was a very long journey. It was a bridging up of the distrust into trust. The we can say very dispersed kind of a community it is, and bringing them together. So trust and togetherness was our target. And 2014 to 2016, 2021, we are working very closely. Now we are connected wonderfully well, and now you can see there are projects coming from them. So at one point of time, when we say that healers or the Vaidus, they will never reveal anything out of their expertise. Now they are ready to share because of a different approach. We wanted them to remain alive after them with this kind of sharing of treasure of information, wherein the access benefit sharing model is going to be practiced, which is universal, which is given by United Nations, and wherein this ABS system of working together of scientists, of a technocrat, of a traditional healer is going to make India a real Vishwaguru in coming days. So one of the best example to share about how can we be very confidently become a Vishwaguru in the field of coming out with the discoveries related with the natural products. One of the best tool will be traditional healers. The example is Professor Yu Tu of China, who had been given the Nobel Prize of Medicine, as she worked on the very traditional piece of information given in the TCM, that is traditional Chinese systems of medicine, wherein she worked on Artemisia annua, and throughout her life she worked on that particular plant, and the hypothesis that it was being used in the Chinese side for keeping the mosquitoes away, or for taking the care of the malaria patients. So one of the best anti-malarial drug that was taken out of Artemisia annua was artemisinin, and for that matter, her contribution was acknowledged, and she was given 2018 the Nobel Prize for Medicine. So I was just imagining, so many people are there in India who have different sets of, either either plant or a combination of plants, or a combination of plants and practices through which they are achieving complete healing for even many intricate diseases, and they are really serving the society as they used to do for thousands of years. So for polycystic ovarian syndrome, we are working with the healers from Northeast, and for Parijataka leaves extract, we are working with the healers from Vidarbha region. So while working with them, it comes into your mind that who are these people, whether they are on the roll of government, whether they are having any special presence. No, they are nowhere, and we are going to really lose them very fast, because most of them are 60 years plus. And if we as a scientific community or as a society do not lend a helping hand to them, probably we would be losing on a much bigger treasure of information with the loss of each one of them. So for that matter, I was continuously engaged with Transdisciplinary University. Earlier it was called as FRLHT Bangalore, for policy making of local health traditions. And this has been going though slowly but steadily. We are achieving one over the other milestones, and today we started acknowledging these healers on various scientific platforms, bringing them on platforms like Society for Ethnopharmacology. Tomorrow there is a convention of society, and we are holding an online traditional healers conclave tomorrow. So do join. I would be happy to share you the link, or you may get the link from Bhujbal sir. So you can join that traditional healers conclave tomorrow at 12 noon, and you would see how close are we now, and how many projects are there in front of us to do the work for the nation, for them as well. So while focusing upon these healers, we started acknowledging this. And this was the brainchild, you can say, of mine. Wherein in 2014 World Ayurveda Congress, I wrote a note to the host of World Ayurveda Congress that probably we are just focusing upon the BAMS and MD Ayurveda graduates, and we are just boasting the Ayurveda through them only. But what about those who have been serving our society for thousands of years? So with that note, they gave us the responsibility, and we organized this very wonderful, very influential conclave in World Ayurveda Congress at Kolkata in 2016, which was organized by Ministry of Ayush, wherein I was very happy to have all the healers, almost 108 healers were there from 15 states. They were on the podium, they were on the stage, they were speaking, they were telling about their systems of health management, their plans, these that. They were very enthusiastic, and who were listening to them were people from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, the CSIR scientists. They were on the listening side. So usually that doesn't happen, and that has really given the necessary confidence to our healers, and we started moving very fast. And then this win-win situation, this I have quoted for my students, that those students who worked on projects related with industry or projects related with the societal significance, they were easily picked up by their placement industries, because industry got working solutions. The person was working on the industry solutions. The student understood industry needs and expectations. They were conditioned in the industry atmosphere, because they were often got the chance to visit the industry. There was no financial pressure on my students, because everything was met by industry. There was rise in their confidence, a lot of work satisfaction of giving back to the society, and that resulted into increased placements. So all this was achieved, but again we had a thirst of reaching out to the many, and we wanted to connect and make our strength visible to the industry, international panorama as well. So scientists from almost 28 countries were part of the 2015 international conclave that we had in Nagpur of Society for Ethnopharmacology, wherein more than 1,000 delegates, 28 industries, invited talks, almost 70, and the workshops were taken together. You can see these were the products prepared by our traditional healers from Gadchiroli district. So value addition, primary processing, and then gaining out of it was the kind of a training that we used to offer to the traditional healers, and therefore they really started taking this as an entrepreneurship model, not merely a service to society, but they were started now earning out of their expertise that they were having. So as I was telling you, you have to really on toes while sharing the things. So as much as you share, you would get multiplied and magnified things from people to whom you are giving. So you can see that we were reaching out to farmers. We started training for many teachers who are interested in isolation of the phytoconstituents or standardization. So HPTLC, flash chromatography, they were our richness, and we started sharing the knowledge associated with that. So to farmers, to even the school students also, we reached out through various exhibitions. We started connecting with the forest department, because that was the main source of raw material, along with National Medicinal Plant Board. This particular the workshop on conservation, processing, and Vipanan, means marketing of natural products. So we brought many purchase managers of many industries at one place, and we started connecting them with the group of we can say healers who were also collecting the raw materials from the forest. Besides that, a good nutrition is always going to be at our high research end, and we started focusing upon all those wild medicinal, wild edible plants which were earlier in our platter but now has been forgotten. So every slide I'm telling you is a very big work, and each subtopic is going to be an independent lecture or lecture series that but this is, I'm just showing you as that what are we supposed to do with the technologies that we have. Whatever minimal that we have, yes, those can be utilized, and we can really make the mark. We can really extend our help and support to the needy components of our society. So along with the Asha workers, we did this, and this Ranbaji Mahotsav was a big hit. We learned a lot. We found that though the things are available in nature, which are free of cost, we are not using it because we are so much practiced to purchase any vegetable from the market only. So that changes of perception has led to organizing these kind of a Lok Swasthya Parampara Samvardhan program in Nagpur, and the whole of the Central India traditional healers were part of it. Then we organized the Nutricon with Nutrition Society of India, and each one is a success story. The bigger story was acknowledging the traditional healers on Ministry of Ayush platform, where in 2016 Kolkata, as I was told you that it was a big success, and then it was in Ahmedabad in 2018. So working with these kind of people really started helping us a big way in integrating the other end. Like you can see Dr. Y.K. Gupta, the chief pharmacologist and clinical expert from AIIMS. She is Madam Banerjee from ICMR, Vijay Bhatkarji, who is president of Vigyan Bharati, and they are really listening to our traditional healers who are coming with their goodies, who are coming up with their experiences, and who are the real gurus in sense because they reside so close to the nature and so close to we can say us also. Now here is an example of Vaidya Ramprasad Rajwade. You can see his banner, and this is a strong man. And at the end of the conference, he just told me that, sir, आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे, मैं इतना अच्छा हड्डी का जोड़ने का काम करता हूं कि अगर आपके पैर पे अभी भी मैं हथौड़ा मारता हूं, अगर वो क्रैक हो जाती है तो 72 घंटे में जोड़ दूंगा, और टूट जाती है तो 8 दिन में जोड़ दूंगा. And that was really proven when it came to one of my sister. She got with an accident, and then I got his medicine, and her counseling was here with the Nagpur, one of the best orthopedic surgeon. And because of the intervention of Rajwade, we really found that on 8th day, her broken collarbone was completely fused. So it was a complete success story, which you can really see, visualize, experience, and then your belief in their talks comes down, and there itself we need the technological intervention. So we really appeal from this platform to suggest your names, suggest your strengths, and we can really help you connect to the projects of societal significance, mostly coming from ethnopharmacological origin. We are really running short of hands, short of minds to work, but believe me, these are the people who are really going to give you the new molecules, the new drug discoveries, new combination of essential natural products, and which would have no limitations whatsoever about the range of diseases they can cure. They can cure anything. And this kind of conclaves, just before the lockdown, we had a small meeting of traditional healers in Jamia Hamdard at Delhi in 2020, and after coming from that, yes, there was a lockdown. So this was the last meeting that we had. After that, we had a Pune conference, which was virtual one, organized by Pune College of Pharmacy. Dr. Satyanarayana was the organizing secretary for that. And now tomorrow we are going to have it for Kolkata Society for Ethnopharmacology Conclave. And just what inspires you? What inspires you is your student. I'm really thankful to all my students for really giving a clap, because one side was my hand, but the another side was theirs, and they really enthusiastically participated and got really successful out of doing such kind of very practical and application based projects. So visits to many industries, that is part of our learning. Outside laboratory learning is another part that we really enjoy, and we learn. When I say that, it means that students are learning, but we are also getting enriched through the several laws of nature which exist so naturally in and around us. And so you can see the best of the analytical laboratories like Acuprec in Ahmedabad and many manufacturing institutes. So you have to keep going, and then it comes like, okay, sir, work has been done. Now, how much is the publication? You can see there are few publications on phytochemical study. So my presence is not at one place. I have no super specialization. I believe that whenever there is a problem, we should be available and we should crack that, and we should extend the happiness to the needy. And therefore, you can see on the phytochemical side, yes, core pharmacography we are doing. Then we have many publications on standardization and quality control in many high-end journals. Then you can see there are publications coming on GoVigyan. Even publishing a research article on GoVigyan was a very key. You don't get good journals accepting the things because of they say there are ethical reasons behind it. But I do not understand when it comes to the scientifically generated document from your laboratory, it should be given an eye. But thankfully, there are few journals who started publishing our research on GoVigyan, then on medicinal plant cultivation. Hardly you will see any papers by pharmacists on agricultural side of the medicinal plants. We have a few. Then on veterinary sciences, we have done a good amount of science along with the veterinary university and some of the doctors over there. Then we have publications on pharmacological screening, and they're all mostly published in Journal of Ethnopharmacology. So you can imagine the quality of publications that we have. So they're all highly appreciated kind of a work, and the students really worked hard, and we got the papers published in high-end journals. So now I would just come to the summary of total of my presentation, and just to summarize, I just written few words like I wish to provide all the wisdom in research for establishing a panacea from natural sources. So naturally, I kept my focus on natural sources, and that was very broader kind of a concept, and therefore I could reach out to all different branches which are connected with natural sources. Second is, we have to work, we have to use the technologies, no doubt, because that is going to create the evidences which are going to be which are going to make us more confident in explaining its uses, which are going to really make us confident in reaching out to the next generation, because next generation is definitely going to ask you questions. If I say claim any medicinal use of any ancient or traditional formulation, so then my student or my next generation is going to ask, how? Have you tested it? Have you seen its potency? Have you seen its purity? Have you seen its consistency? And can be manufactured the smaller things into a bigger scale, and all these kind of studies are questions are going to come. So for that matter, the today's technology and the upcoming technology will be my tool in strengthening this particular ancient science or the traditional sciences or the natural sources. So preserving the holiness and aesthetically extending the technological advantages, developing scientific evidences. Now, while doing so, you have to keep your mind open. You should not block it. That I have read this textbook and this says this thing. If you remain in that block, probably you would never be able to achieve something new. So discovery will come when you will unblock yourself, open your eyes, open your ear, open your mind. And for that matter, you have to keep your keep your heart, mind, and intuition all together receptive. That is the basic that would need, and then only you can reach out to many. You can see in my presentation there were so many handholdings, so many people helped us, so many departments were involved. So how that has happened? It happened because when you open up yourself, people will also help you. So I love what I do. I really enjoyed doing the things that I'm doing so far, and I appeal all of you to join hand, so that this domain is very open for all of you, and there is a lot of space. As I said, it's a space as big as Brahmanda. So a small amount of work has been done so far, and there is so much of opportunities. So whatever I have shown, whatever success journey I shared with you, it is surely, it's not me alone. It's we. So we acknowledge all those. I really thank all of them who helped me made all these things happen. And before I end with this in last slide of thank you, I would like to just pray for all of you through the Jivan Vidya Mission's prayer, and that is I would sing in Marathi. हे ईश्वरा सर्वांना चांगली बुद्धी दे, आरोग्य दे, सर्वांना सुखात आनंदात ऐश्वर्यात ठेव, सर्वांचं भलं कर, कल्याण कर, रक्षण कर, आणि तुझे गोड नाव मुखात अखंड राहू दे. So thanking all those organizations, all those people who at some point or other has helped us understand these universal laws of nature, which are really prevalent, which are not very visible, but they helped us understand, and the kind of guidance that they given, the kind of a companionship they given, and the kind of volunteering they did. I really am thankful to them, and therefore, as you see a picture of fruit from unripe to ripen can be seen, and this is what has happened to us for our laboratory, for our department as well, by virtue of all this. So today also, I am thankful to all those who are online on this platform, and I believe that many of you must have been connected to me by heart, by mind, and many of you would have been inspired to do something like this. If that has happened, the purpose of my talk is fulfilled. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful and informative session on technology interventions in exploring new opportunities in establishing natural products as modern phytopharmaceuticals. Sir, with your due permission, can we proceed to question answer session?
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you, sir. Now, the first question is from Dr. Varsha Tiwari. When we formulate and evaluate any formulation, what are the procedure of approval for medicinal purposes? Whether we require any clinical data? If yes, where we should approach for that?
Okay, that's a very good question, and this is the question of the time, because many Ayurvedic doctors, they usually used to formulate the things on their own. So they used to go and collect the raw material, following the the standards which are given in Ayurveda. They used to prepare these formulation, and that formulation used to be very individualistic, means for one person affected with one particular affliction. So that was the kind of a earlier arrangement of Ayurveda was there. But now in today's scenario, if you see that people are getting all these medicines on the shelf of the medicine shop. So it means that things are being manufactured by a manufacturer, and a polyherbal formulation is coming up. Now, as on today, if you say that who is the authority who is going to regulate all these things, it's the Food and Drugs Administration. It is by sure, but there are no laid down standards for Ayurveda so far. Things are really improving slowly by virtue of strengthening of the pharmacopoeias. Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia is coming, ICMR's pharmacopoeia is coming, like that. So slowly the standards are coming. But how far we have reached? We have reached up to one single drug, and that is being standardized. So you can analyze it, you can control it, you can do the preclinical evaluation, clinical evaluation of one single plant, and for that matter, the data is moreover available. But our Ayurveda formulations are mostly polyherbal in nature. And for that matter, we really need to have a proper approval. First of all, what would be the approval? Are you really following the methods which are given in Ayurveda? Number one, while making formulation. Second, most of the time we find that the formulations are proprietary in nature. It means any learned person, even including Madam Tiwari, can formulate a combination of few herbs based on her understanding. And she can get that formula approved from Food and Drug Administration even without clinical data, even without preclinical data. How? By justifying the addition of each of these ingredients as mentioned in different Ayurvedic texts. So the references only can give you the registration or the license for manufacturing of a polyherbal formulations. But as madam was asking you whether the clinical data is needed now onwards, say from here 10 years onwards, yes, definitely that would be a prerequisite. So it means that if anybody is coming out with a combination of certain herbs, he himself will have to generate the data related with its safety, number one, and the efficacy. For that matter, now many doctors are coming up to us and we are diverting them to certain clinical research organizations, for even we as a pharmacy colleges, if you have the animal houses, you can take their projects and get it animal, ethical approved, generate the preclinical evidences, give that data. But for clinical studies, yes, anybody who wish to do clinical studies has to register his or her study on the register of clinical registry online, that is of the Drug Controller General of India. Or ICMR has also the portal wherein you have to register your clinical studies first, and then you can perform after the approval, you can perform those clinical studies, and that data will be of use in securing we can say a license for say export or even for manufacturing at a larger scale. So this is the story. As of now, FDA will not give you any standards. You have to create your own standards. You have to create your own evidences and submit it to them for their understanding and for their approval. So am I good enough to answer this question? This was a very broad question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next question is from Minakshi ma'am. How to check efficacy of hair oil formulation in our lab?
Okay. There are two ways. One is in vitro, wherein the microorganisms which are responsible for, we can say root damage or weakening of the roots of the hair can be taken up in the in vitro testings, and your drug can be tested whether you are good enough to, whether your formulation is good enough to, reduce their life or kill them, and that kind of activity will be a first step that you can do in your microbiology laboratory. But what is preclinical studies on that? On in vivo scale, yes, you have the rat models, and there are so many protocols which are available. So you have to induce baldness first by giving say steroids, or some other drugs are also there, and you can see how much your drug is preventing that hair loss because of the intervening say chemical agent. So that is another way by which you can do. So hair loss, and then there are parameters through which you can count upon whether your drug is really active in that case or not. So the we can say the per square mm hair growth is calculated, its length, its we can say the health of the hair is another parameter on the basis of which you can really evaluate that whether your drug is effective or not. So there are two methods, in vivo as well as in vitro, that you can do in your laboratories as well.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Dr. Mohan. What is the way to approach herbal industry for research consultancy tie-up? Whether we need to communicate our protocol?
No, the communication has to be your intent. So many times it happens that you see the bigger industries, if you try to approach, they will never respond to you because they have their in-house R&D facilities. They are spending lakhs of salaries on PhDs who have been there already in their laboratories. They wish them to work 24/7, and they wish that their research should be for the benefit of the industry. That is number one. Second is, then who should be approached to? If you look into India's sector, almost 60% is micro, small, medium entrepreneurs. So who do not have any research laboratories or R&D laboratories. and they do not have even the big budget to do, you know, the high-end research. So what can be done? So this is where the win-win situation is there. You are looking for an industrialist who is, you know, good in having, you know, some kind of, you know, business, some kind of, you know, research problem. उनके बहुत सारे problems हैं, stability के problems हैं, formulation development के problems हैं, analysis के problems हैं, and seriously they are looking for, you know, some help outside. Outside there are laboratories who charge them very high. So like, for example, I'm telling you, there are few small players here and they wanted to generate a scientific data and they wanted to do HPTLC. Now for doing one sample HPTLC, the private testing laboratory was taking 5,000 rupees. Now can you imagine? We all know that one single plate can accommodate 10, 15 samples at a go. And you can do it at a very cheaper rate. So what we did was like, you know, okay, you please come down to our laboratory. We will, you know, whatever in actuals is needed. So the charges may not go beyond 500 rupees. But that kind of help has really solved the small man's purpose. He is happy with the kind of, you know, work that you have done. You are happy that you have got a very small consultancy, but something that has given you the content and the peace of mind कि आपने कुछ किसी के लिए किया. So approaches has to be there with terms of intent. आपकी इच्छा होनी चाहिए और ये फोकस होना चाहिए कि कौन नीडी है. तो नीडी को आप अगर पहुंचाते हैं आपकी हेल्प, that becomes more fruitful rather than, you know, asking bigger industries to take our help. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Dr. Sanmuga Priya. Whether the mechanism of action of these formulations were identified, for example, growth hair preparations.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, sir. Whether the mechanism of action of these formulations were identified, for example, growth hair preparations.
Yes, definitely. We see there are few things when you do work on herbals, you have to first really do the literature survey. So as we do the survey, you understand that XYZ plant contains you know, the kind of, you know, constituents which are very unique. Now, if you say that there are isoflavonoids, and what are the established you know, pharmacological activities of the isoflavonoids, so you can get number of papers, research papers related with isoflavonoids, and then there are, you know, say 10 possible activities which have been proven by somebody else. So those isoflavonoids may not be coming from the plant that you are talking about, but maybe from some other plants. But the nature and the chemical nature of that constituent guides you to understand whether if this kind of, you know, constituent is present in your plant or your own formulation, then it is hypothesized, or we can really assure ourselves that your constituent will also behave the same way. It has been proven by somebody else because of its chemical nature. And therefore, you can, even without practically doing in your laboratory, because you might be, you know, getting short of the expertise in doing the preclinical studies. But then you can really connect the literature, the evidences shown by somebody else, and the kind of a piece of information which is available there. So if it says that the isoflavonoids, they are working through XYZ you know, pathway, and thereby it is giving you the activity in some other case, same may apply in your case as well. So you did not have to keep on going up to the mechanistic level every time you work. You can connect the literature and the wealth of information about that particular chemical constituent with the plant along with that particular constituent. You can definitely connect that, and if somebody does the work practically, it is well and nice, and it is obvious to get the results, because the plants, they will work, they will not be partisan, and they will not show any different results than it has been proven earlier.